QuickBooks Online 2025 Accounts Receivable Graphs. Get ready and some coffee because we're learning how to save time with QuickBooks Online 2025. Here we are online in our browser searching for that QuickBooks Online test drive, the free sample company file available to everybody. Looking for the result that has intuit.com in the URL because Intuit is the owner of QuickBooks. We want to be choosing the United States version of the software and then verify we're not a robot with the checkbox. Continuing on, closing the prior tab as it's no longer needed. We are now currently in the sample company file, Craig's Design Landscaping Services. We will open the major financial statement reports as done every time. Reports on the left-hand side. In the standard tab, in the favorites, right-clicking on the balance sheet to open a link in a new tab. Same with the P&L, the profit and loss, to open a link in a new tab. Tabbing to the middle and closing the hamburger. We'll change the range to the 2-year time frame as has been our custom. 010124 tab, 123125 tab. Selecting the drop down to see it in years. Run it to refresh it, given the 2024 to 2025 years, side by side, tabbing to the right side, closing that ham boogie again, and change the range another time. 010124 tab, 123125 tab, selecting the drop down to see it in years. Run it once again to refresh it. 2024-25 side by side, these being the major financial statement reports. All other reports giving more information about one or multiple line items of these two major reports. We now want to think about the idea of graphs. We could be adding some nice colorful graphs to the packages, remembering that we're imagining we are a bookkeeper, for example, and we're trying to give information possibly on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis, to our client to make sure that they know that we're doing the job, we're diligent over here, and it might be good to have some visuals in those reports, such as graphs. So there's multiple different things we can make graphs from. So for example, on the income statement, we might want to break out income by who we sold to. So we can do a pie graph by who we sold to, or a bar graph, or we can do income by what we sold. So we can make a pie graph of our sales items, inventory, or service items. We can also do the same for the expenses side of things. We could go to the balance sheet possibly and make a graph for the accounts receivable, representing how much of those receivables are from particular clients or customers. We could do the same for the accounts payable. Now note, some software kind of makes these graphs internally, and there's some, you can look at the overview in QuickBooks on making these graphs, but it's far more customizable to use Excel. So that's what we will do here. We're going to say, let's imagine that we want to make a graph for the accounts receivable. And how could we do that? We want to make a graph breaking out who owes us the money, possibly a pie graph. So if I go into this number and drill down on it, we're going to get our detailed information, our general ledger type of report from a textbook standpoint, which they call a transaction report. Not really what we need here, because this is breaking out the transaction by date. What we need is the subsidiary report. So most of the reports that we have looked at that are subsidiary reports are the types of reports we might use for graphs. So let's go back and say, all right, let's go to the first tab and see if I can get a subsidiary report related to the receivables. It would be who owes you section of the reports. We don't want the aging reports. We want maybe the customer balance summary report. That looks like the one. Let's right click on that, open it in a new tab, and then tab on over to the right. So there it is. I'm going to close this out. So here's our report. It's nice and fairly simple type of report. Now notice we have some sub-clients. That's going to make it a little bit more complex because it gives me a subcategory. So maybe I might be able to collapse those. If I collapse the sub-clients, then I get a nice list. Now if I could just export this list, that would be great, because it would be so easy for me to just do a percentage of the total column over here, which would be an easy thing to then use to create a pie chart which is very simple to do within Excel. Once I have the pie chart, then I can try to group it together in my reports in some way, shape, or form. Remembering the general way we can give reports is by just simply printing the reports, putting them into a folder, giving them to the clients, or possibly batching them together. If I go to the first tab in the management reports, might be a little bit more difficult to attach like a PDF that you made in Excel over here. The third option is for us to export all the reports to Excel, possibly using a PDF printer then to print them on all one PDF file, which is what our major objective will be here. So let me show you what I mean. Let's open this up. I'm going to try to say, let's go export to Excel. Export it to Excel. I'll put it in just the transfer for now, and I'll call it like report 2. And let's just open that. Let's see if I can find it and open it. Donde está? Where did you go? Where'd who go? We're going to go in here and say this is the one. I just called it a 2. So I'll open that up. So there's our report. There's our starting point. Now now you could just work on it from here, but I'm going to put it into this other tab where we have been compiling all of our income statement reports and our balance sheet reports. And imagine that once I have all the tabs for all the reports I want here, then I can use a PDF printer to customize the printing of them. So that's what I'm going to imagine here. You don't have to do this if you're not doing it this way, but I'm going to continue with this process. So how can I get this report over there? I could copy the whole thing, but it would be easier if I right click on this bottom tab, move or copy, and then I have a drop down. I can select the 2 workbooks, which are kind of like the documents that are open in Excel. I want to put it into the reports document, and I want to create a copy and then say okay, and there we go. So I want to see my bar down here. So always show the ribbon. So there we have that. I'm going to close the prior report. Don't need that no more. So there we have it. So now I'm going to pull it to the left. I'm going to grab it. I'm just clicking on the left click. I'm going to drag it all the way to the right. And so now I can populate this report, and that's what we'll be working on now. So all I have to do is make basically a pie chart based on this. So how can I construct a pie chart? Let's get rid of all the stuff that we don't need. So I'm going to basically go from this 1 here column. I'm going to do this fairly quickly since it's not an Excel course, but I just want to give a quick example of how you might approach this tasks and give you some reports that others might not know how to do too well. Let's right click and delete this. And then I'm going to delete this bottom bit. I don't need that. Right click and delete that. And then I would like to format the whole sheet in the same formatting. So I'm going to select outside here, which has this formatting. And I'm going to say, let's format paint that into the entire sheet, which I'm going to select the format painter and then the entire sheet. So there we have the formatting of the entire sheet. Now I'm going to go in and adjust what I would like to have my baseline formatting be, selecting the entire sheet with the triangle, right click, format the cells, and I want to make the whole thing currency, negative numbers bracketed, no $sign, and then do I want decimals? Let's take the decimals off and then I'll add them as needed. So I'll say okay. And then I'll also home tab font group, make it bold. All right, so there we have it. And then we have our total down here. Is this summing it up? I'd rather just use a sum function. It would be easier to see than that. So let's do this equals the sum of this. And there we go. So 5282. That should tie out to what's on the balance sheet. So what's on the balance sheet? Accounts receivable 5282, and this is in 2025. I ran it for 2025, did I? I guess I did. We'll do it there. That's fine. Even though all the rest of these reports are for 2024, but I don't want to. We'll be okay with that. We're just looking at formatting for formatting's sake. All right. So now let's take. I probably should have put the 2025 numbers in there. That's going to annoy me, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is 2025. And we'll just look at the formatting of it. All right, so now we could say I could just use this to basically enter a pie chart. So I could just select all this data, not including the total, go to the Insert tab, and then go to the Charts, insert a pie chart. Now, you could have a fancy pie chart like this, but I find that this one is a little bit more honest because I don't really like the 3D thing because it's a way that you can distort the numbers by making a part of the pie look larger than it should. So I'm going to select this one and say, there we have it. Now, normally we're going to see now there's too many slices to the pie. Usually I only want like 5 slices to the pie. So what I'm going to do here is say, let's just group the bottom bit of this and say we go down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then maybe 10 right here. I'll put all the rest in other. So now if I go over here and select all of these, that adds up to the 8191. So other's just going to be, or 18, what was it? 1891, 1891. And then I'm just going to delete all of this stuff. Delete. And so now that's going to be a more simple pie. I'm still at 5282, which is the 2025 number, which I should have done it for 2024, but there it is. Do it for 2025, and then I'll sum this up so that looks good. And then I'm just going to adjust this chart. So now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See if I can make it larger here. And so now it's at least a little bit more manageable. We could adjust it, further down than that if we so choose. Title AR by client or customer, something like that. And so there we have it. And then I could adjust the formatting of the chart where you have all these options. So if I click on here, we've got the chart design that pops up top, and then we could change, the color scheme on the side and so on and so forth. And we have the different chart designs. These are the default designs. So this one might be a little bit cleaner. And I might want the percentages in there. So that's kind of cool to have the percentages. Still a little too many pie pieces, so I could make it less than 10. But that looks okay for an example. So that just gives you an example. Now, once I have this, I could copy it and put it into like a Word document or into, say, a PowerPoint, pasting it like that, right? And that could give me one way I can present this information, or I can save it as a PDF and print it somewhere that I would like it to be, or attach it to a report. Now, notice that if I if I want to print this whole tab out, I might not want the data. I just want the graph. So what I could do is I can make another tab, add another tab, and I'm going to call this the AR graph. AR graph. And this one I'm going to double click and call AR graph data. So this will be the data, and I'll move the actual graph. Maybe I'll just copy it and then put it over here. So now I have it on its own sheet. So now I can format it, go in the tab to the right, go back on over. So now it fits on the vertical sheet here. So now I can align it to fit on this sheet. If I want to make it longer, maybe I want to make this sheet landscape. And then I have a little bit more room. I can make it a little bit larger, maybe this way. Or something like that. Now the problem is, if I print this now, I still have this data tab. So if I go over here and say I want to print this thing, print it, and I want to print the entire, print it to the cute PDF printer, and I print the entire workbook, which I can't see right now because I'm on this page for whatever reason. If I go back on over and go on to this page and then click off of the graph, then go back on over and print, and I want to see the entire workbook. So the problem is I don't want that data tab to show up. See how this data tab is here? I don't want that. I just want this tab. So what I can do then is go back and click on the tab that I don't want and right click and hide the tab. So now that it's hidden, I should just see this tab. So if I go back, File, and Print, now when I scroll down, it's just going to show that graph, and I can print this to a cute PDF printer, which includes all of the tabs, and the graph has that nice graph. So that's just a quick example. I'm going to go back. If you want to unhide, I'm going to hold down Control, select these two, right click, and then unhide. Oh, wait, I hid them again. Let's unhide. Unhide all of them. Can I select all of them? There we go. I'm holding down Shift. Okay, so there we have them. Now they're back. All right, that's the general idea. Now, if you wanted to check these numbers, like where do these numbers come from? I could do it's just the percent of the total. So I could do a percent of the total, which would be equal to this divided by the total. And then this bottom bit, I want when I copy it down, this cell not to move. So I select F4 on the keyboard, $ before the B and the 11. So when I hit enter, I'm going to percentify to recognize, home tab, number, percentify, maybe add decimals. Let's take them off. There's no decimals over here. So I'll copy this down. And then that should add up to 100%, equals the sum of 100%. Boom, boom. Now you might also do a bar graph. So you might do a bar graph, and if I did a bar graph, you might do the bars by dollar amount or percent, right? So I could select this and go insert bar, that's a histogram, bar graph. So I could see it that way. And that would be by dollar amount. So it's giving me the level of dollar amount. Or I can do a bar graph by percent if I wanted to. Selecting this. I'm holding down Control to select a non-adjacent column. Insert maybe a bar graph. And now it gives it by percent. Boom. And say, now let's say I want one of these over here. I copy the whole thing, bring it over here, and then paste it. Boom. And then I can bring this out. Maybe I put this on a different page. So it's next page down, and just go, there's the bar graph. So that's just, so now if I go back on over and print, so now I've got, wait a sec, I'm still on the bar graph. Click off the bar graph, and then print. It doesn't do it. Let's go back on over, go to a different tab, click off the bar graph, File, Print. There we have it. So now we have, now it's doing the same thing. Let's click on a different one, and then File, Print. And so now if I go down, and I want to see the entire workbook. All right, there we go. So here it is. So here's that one. Here's the last two. So we have them on two, even though they're on the same tab, it's 2 pages long. All right, so that's going to be that. So again, we can do a whole lot of other formatting within here, but hopefully you can see that Excel is the tool that you want to do for graphs, because you can do a pretty basic graph pretty easily, and you have so many more options in Excel than in most database programs. So a database program can give you a simple graph, but they're not going to give you all of the functionality you can do in Excel. So all you have to do is take those subsidiary ledger reports, export them to Excel, and you can make a simple graph pretty easily once you do it a few times. So you can do a lot more, look up a lot more information on how to generate graphs within Excel and different options for them. But just to give you an idea of them, that's how you do it here. Now, notice that the desktop version used to make some of these graphs themselves, but again, there's no real reason to do that within the database program, because the graphs, again, the level of customization is so minimal compared to Excel. So it's just so much better to just export the data to Excel and then make the graph, because you can do so many different things. And if you're trying to impress somebody, your clients, by putting graphs in the chart, then Excel is such a good way to do that, because you can make graphs that are customizable, that other people just aren't doing. People don't know how to just export this data and make a graph. It looks impressive, but once you do it a few times, it's so easy to do. So maybe we'll do a couple more of these in future presentations.